Okay, so let's look at the mechanism. For insulin and how it works. All right, so I have my little blood vessel here, and there are two types of cells in general. Okay, there are insulin dependent cells and these are most body cells. And then there are liver cells, which are not insulin dependent. So an insulin dependent cell means that the glucose can't get in. Okay, glucose cannot get in without a key. So if we have our little, let's say this is the insulin receptor. So we have our insulin coming around in the blood, and we have glucose, which is floating around the blood. Okay, in an insulin-dependent cell, there is no way for the glucose to get in the cell. So insulin will come over and bind to the insulin receptor. And when that happens, basically a second messenger, it's a peptide hormone, so it causes a second messenger cascade till we get our second messenger, which is the cyclic AMP. And basically that causes a glut transporter to be exocytosed onto the membrane. So the second messenger system, the second messenger, that's what happens. That's the action from the second messenger, is to have the glut transporter put onto the cell membrane. When that happens, glucose can come into the cell. So that's an insulin-dependent cell. That's how these cells, the body cells, get glucose in there, is through insulin binding to that receptor and allowing that glut transporter to be added to the cell membrane, allowing glucose in. In a liver cell, liver cells also actually have a transporter for insulin, or excuse me, a receptor. Insulin receptor. And the insulin will bind here. But the glut transporter is already here. It's always in liver cells in the plasma membrane. The problem is when glucose comes in to this transporter, or this channel, whatever you want to call it, it comes in through diffusion. So there's always more glucose in the blood than's coming into the cell. But at some point, the cell will fill up with glucose, and then it will stop allowing glucose in. It'll fill up and stop. New glucose will stop coming in. So in order to keep that from occurring, the insulin that binds to the receptor, instead of acting as a key to let the glucose in, what it does is it transforms the glucose coming in, transforms it into glucose 6-phosphate, thus making it a different compound, a different thing, or a different thing from glucose. So now glucose can continue to come into the cell. So both types of cell, whether they're insulin dependent or non-insulin dependent, both use insulin. They just use them for different things. So that's basically how insulin works in the body.